Hi guys, what's up? My name is Aayush Ailawadi. I'm joined by my two very talented colleagues at Fortune India, Ajita and Ashu. Isn't that a fun job, Ashu? I think it's quite an enviable job. We get to huddle like this to talk about all intellectual things as well, but today we're only talking content. No, we're
Right,
talking.
right, definitely. It is.
I'm just kidding. Ashu, we're also going to be talking about some really interesting things and the stories you've been working on. This is that recording of behind the scenes at Fortune India that we all look forward to each and every month. And this is a special issue, Ajita, because we're talking about the business of entertainment. We're talking about India's content, so much of it now made here, a burgeoning industry. More importantly, content made in India for the rest of the world. Now, from your top story in this issue of Fortune India, which is hitting the stands, it's interesting to see some of these stats, Ajita. If we just start off and dive right in, because the Indian online curated content market, the OTT market, is valued at $2.1 billion, right? And while we've seen significant growth, there have been a bunch of factors that have changed in the last couple of years. That struggle for profitability as well, Ajita, is that one of the key takeaways from your story?
Yes. So there's been robust growth. And the good news is Indian content has started traveling globally. And we may not be anywhere near Korea, what Korea has done, but we are getting there. We are taking baby steps there. So Netflix, I'm sure all of you watch Netflix. So some of the top non-English shows have
Yeah.
been from India. So in 2024, Hira Mandi, kind of went to 43 countries. It was the top show in 43 countries for 6 to 7 consecutive weeks. Then you had content like Lapita Ladies, that was on Netflix. Then Amazon Prime Video had shows like Patal Lok, which did extremely well. And Amazon Prime Video, I'm told, every week they have an Indian show on the top 10 list. So Indian content has started going up, global, and that is the great news. But during COVID, when production came to a halt, most of the OTT platforms started acquiring content very aggressively. And this was typically film content because they were not able to make their own content. And that's when there was this whole demand and supply mismatch. And now, when things have become normal, the platforms, all of them have started kind of, they have no choice but to kind of be a little prudent when it comes to commissioning content or buying content. So I won't say there's been a cost cutting. There has
Yeah.
been a fair bit of rationalization which is happening.
It's interesting you mentioned rationalization because honestly, it's been the rising costs. And we saw this phenomena over the lockdowns and how a lot of these platforms were investing in original content. Now it seems like the winds of change, Ajita, are blowing because I was noticing in your story there's this conversation about licensing. Is that something that a lot of the top players are considering? Is that a more cost-effective model, perhaps?
I won't say it's a cost effective model. It's not at all a cost effective model. You need deep pockets to be
Yeah.
able to license your own content.
Yeah.
So there are two studios which are doing it in a big way, which is Geo Studios, which is the biggest. They have done 50% of the film content last year. And then you have Aditya Birla Group's Applause Entertainment. So the model is they create the content, they shoot the content, and then they license it to a platform.
Yeah.
And Geo also has a similar model. But
Mhm.
bulk of the studios, they don't have the wherewithal to invest in content and then license it. So they follow the commission method. So suppose I'm a Netflix and you are a content creator, I would commission content to you. So there the IP rests with me. You
Yeah.
are not able to own the IP. But the moment you license it, obviously you own the IP. You can do anything with the IP. So today you can give it to Netflix. Tomorrow you can give it to some other a streaming platform. You can take it globally. You can do whatever you want to do with it. You can distribute it across, say, 100 countries. You can do whatever you had. We've not reached that level, barring Geo and Applause, and a few others were beginning to license content, but like Dharma, for instance, owns 70 to 80% of its content
Mhm.
created. So it is very valuable as an organization. That is why it is very valuable, and no wonder it got a 1,000 crore investment from Adar Poonawalla.
Talking about
Not
investment.
all of them are able to do it.
You're talking about investment. There's the big money spent over here in terms of what happened with, Reliance Jio and Disney Star. That was perhaps the largest M&A deal ever in India, $8.5 billion. And that conversation about content being king, so many things changed, right? There was a Sony Z merger, which we were expecting, that fell through the cracks. And then obviously Netflix and Amazon were continuing on their path of generally you're capturing as much of the market as possible. Globally, there were also murmurs of how much they're doing in sports. The WWE coming to Netflix, many sporting titles coming to Amazon Prime as well. How much of this activity in India, especially in the M&A space, and the consolidation that we were expecting over the past couple of years, how much has that really changed the sector, according to you, Ajita?
It's again very nascent. So, of course, we've had the biggest consolidation in India's history, which is the $8.5 billion Jio and Disney Star getting together.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the Sony Z merger fell through the cracks. So there aren't too many happening, but at least I can see a fair bit of maturity in the industry. So, Dharma. We all thought Dharma was kind of Karan Johar was in deep debt, and
Yeah.
he was bailed out by Adar Poonawalla. But when I spoke to some of the people from the industry, they told me that Dharma actually has a lot of value because it owns 70 to 80% of the IP. So, but not all of them. As I told you before, it is all about owning the IP.
Yeah.
If the I and very few content companies, maybe a Maddock to some extent, has fair bit of value sitting on it, but
Yeah.
the rest, or an Abundantia Entertainment, they are doing very well. They're very strong, but I don't think the rest are anywhere close. They still work on the commission model.
Jio Hotstar, big money spent on the IPL, and everyone's
Yeah.
watching this, right? Every other sport pales in comparison to what the IPL viewership is for, but it's for a limited period, right? You're spending nearly $2 billion on acquiring these rights and the ICC rights, and cricket is a religion in our country, of course. But then you think about how many, 275 million subscribers post the IPL? What happens after, the morning after? That is the real concern, Ajita, because while they've invested in content from the Disneys and the Peacocks and the HBOs, the market for that content in India is minute. It's incredibly niche and small. How do you really focus on profitability in the short term or medium term there? How do you focus on getting more subscribers? More importantly, does this all level out in the medium to long term? Is that the path for these companies?
So, the saying that content is king has never been as true as it is now. So,
Yeah.
as you rightly said, the day IPL gets over, uh, will the big question for Jio Hotstar is, will they be able to retain their subscription base? Because that is when they will start losing subscriber base. So they really have to invest in content and entertainment content in order to be able to hold on to that audience.
Yeah.
So that is what is going to be clearly going to be the challenge for them. And it is not Jio Hotstar. Content acquisition and retention is a challenge for all the platforms. I have subscribed to Jio Hotstar to watch IPL. Tomorrow, after IPL gets over and I don't find the rest of their content compelling enough, I'm free to drop off. They cannot stop me.
Mm.
So that it's not just customer acquisition, but retention, which is going to be a big challenge for all of them.
It's an interesting space, Ashu. I think the way it's really panning out. But yeah, I think Ajita, we'll be tracking this space more and more, and that story is out there. There's so much more in terms of the business of entertainment. I know we're talking about gaming here, about podcasts. We've really covered the whole gamut of
We've
entertainment.
also covered regional OTTs in a big way, regional over the top. So like a Hoi Choi. There's something called the Stage, which is Haryanvi content.
Yeah.
There's Chaupal, which is Punjabi and Haryanvi content. And in fact, interestingly, all those models are subscriber models.
Yeah.
They're very little, the dependence on advertising is not as much. It is
Yeah.
very little dependence on advertising. They're subscription-based models and they're profitable.
No, and you're talking about the dependence on advertising, and that's also something I want to touch upon. But people have been very bummed out over the past couple of weeks when Amazon Prime announced that they're going to be putting in ads in a certain type of subscription. Then there's a tier above it where you have to pay even more. So, people are saying, is there no end to this? because we paid for this sort of premium experience, and now look what's happening. And then we have to see what the others are doing, because even when you open an Amazon Prime now, you have 500 channels. A Lionsgate Play and Apple TV Plus is also now on. Is it an aggregator of services? Are they getting into live sport? I think this is going to be a place that's hotting up now. You said nascent a couple of times, and we will be tracking this space. Ajita, obviously coming to you for all the expert insights over there. Ashu, there's also a big, very substantial, significant chunk of this issue, which is dedicated to perhaps the most landmark development happening on the 9th of June. You want to walk us through that in terms of Modi 3.0 completing a year. So much has happened. So much has happened in terms of the economy, finance, reforms, and also in terms of national security, Ashu. What are the key takeaways?
Right. What I'd like to tell you first is that why did we actually get into this story in the first place?
Mhm.
Because, Modi government had been there since 2014. A lot of reforms have been initiated. A lot of initiatives on the macroeconomic front have been taken. A lot of infrastructure bottlenecks have been cleared. All those things have been happening. But, the trigger for this story essentially was that, at the time after the election, if you remember, the BJP camp had a very somber mood because they were reduced to 240 seats. They were expecting more than, I mean, they were they went into the election with a clarion call for Ab Ki Bar, 400 par, and all those big slogans. The numbers, were not so great, and they had to rely on their alliance partners, which was an aberration, which was a very big aberration from the past for the BJP itself, for the Narendra Modi government itself, which may have been in the alliance in the past, but it was still BJP in complete majority. At that time, there was this view as to whether this government will be able to continue with the policy level reforms, the big infrastructure initiatives. Will there be, alliance? Coalition compulsions working on the alliance that we have seen in the past. Will all those things actually restrain Narendra Modi from implementing Modinomics and implementing the kind of policy initiatives that we have taken in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
So the difference over here was that these restraints did not work for this government, and this is the thing that we have kind of tried to bring into the piece. And
Yeah.
several key takeaways, several big decisions have been discussed in the copy. Just to name a few, the macroeconomy, on the macroeconomy front, the economy has been really resilient in the face of a lot of battering that has happened on the FII's outflow, trade tariffs, and all those things. But still, in the face of all those things, economy has remained kind of stable, so to say. Tariff initiatives are being taken, FTA initiatives are being taken. There was a big tax relief. So all these things have been encapsulated in the copy as the major achievements of the government, even though it is, a coalition government, so to say, a pure play coalition government.
Also the news development that India will now be becoming the fourth largest economy in the world. And then I'm just going to play devil's advocate, because while, of course, we are the fastest growing economy and incredibly stable and in the face of all adversity, but my favorite football team, Liverpool, says, at the end of a storm is a golden sky. And in the face of all of that,
Yeah.
we've seen how India has been performing. But just to show you the flip side and maybe get your thoughts on it, Ashu, when we talk about GDP growing in the multiple trillions over the next few years, and then we talk about GDP per capita, that whole conversation about nominal GDP versus GDP per capita wise, there are certain things that still need to be worked on, really, to really figure out an equitable distribution of wealth and really call ourselves an advanced economy in the top 3 or top 5.
See, the point that you are mentioning actually, there is indeed a point. But what happens is that when you are essentially a developing economy, these constraints will always be there. One may argue that at this rate of growth, at say 6.5 or something, will we be able to achieve our Viksit Bharat goal by 2047? Obviously, at this particular rate, one is not going to achieve that kind of that final figure is not going to be there. But
Right.
it is not that this rate is going to continue. Investments in the economy are going on. Investments in the economy on the infrastructure front are going on. We have mentioned about the India UK trade deal that has been finalized. And I'd like to point you out over here that there are 10 similar trade deals on which India is working right now very aggressively. One of them being obviously the India US one. Secondly, we are in talks, we are in very aggressive talks with India EU. These are likely to be finalized in the realm of say 6 to 7 months. So
Yeah.
when you fine tune all these things, when your export grows, when you are your balance of trade is in your favor,
Yeah.
these numbers, the GDP numbers, which may look subdued right now, there will be a ripple impact going forward on these big macro numbers as well. So as of now, the pace of growth may not be that great enough, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that policy initiatives, trade tariff initiatives, infrastructure investment initiatives are being done in that direction, so that the final outcome is in the ballpark of a developed economy.
But when we talk about trade, and you mentioned the US trade deal, we cannot talk about that T without the T from the US. Donald Trump and so many flip flops in terms of what he's doing on the tariff front, how China becomes a player. I mean, I look at technology, right? And we keep tracking what's happening. I keep speaking to some of the creators and journalists and the tech experts in the US, and even they're confused because after publishing a story that the iPhone manufacturing and the supply chain is coming here, there is, this whole conversation where Mr. Trump says it's not necessarily going to come here. But then what happens to the cost of those products in the US? It's a confusing time to really be in trade, Ashu, as well, right? If you're just considering the kind of signals coming from there.
It is indeed confusing times, but I'd like to take you back some 3 months back, 4 months back, when this all Trump uh, tariff tantrum began, so to say.
That's three. That's
Now
that's
you
three.
have
That's
to
a
look for
three
a
alliteration.
particular pattern. Exactly. So you have to look for a pattern. What is happening really is that when Trump came out saying, bulldozing everybody, that okay, I'll impose so much tax tariff, 145% on China. China also responded. Look at ultimately what happened. They went to the talking table, kind of negotiated, and now things seem settled between China and the US. They are going to roll out their complete details in the next 90 days. Same is the case with other countries also. The whole entire plan was shelved. With India also, they are renegotiating a deal. So the modus operandi of the Trump regime looks like
Mhm.
you drop a bomb, scare people to the extent that you kind of ensure that make them do what you exactly want. Now in this particular case, it remains to be seen as to what are the expectations of the US. But yes, these tariff bombs that he is dropping are
Yeah.
meant essentially to renegotiate certain things in favor of America. And once those get settled, maybe things will get more normalized. So that is how I see it, basically.
Absolutely. But also, I want to understand this piece as well, Ashu, because in terms of Operation Sindoor, Ajita already pulled the rabbit out of the hat because Operation Sindoor and the way it panned out and the global narrative and how the Western media was covering it, how the media across the border was covering it. We discussed this, Ashu, the last time we were chatting. But then, in terms of purely objectively, if you were to look at it, it really seems like this is a paradigm shift in the way India deals with terror. Our policy has
Yes,
changed.
yes,
Our approach is completely changed and is there for the world to see.
yes, of course. This is a, I mean, you know it may have happened for 3 days, then there was a ceasefire. But in these days, a lot has actually changed. A lot has been redefined. A lot has been underlined, not only to India, not only to India and Pakistan,
Yeah.
but to the entire world. In terms of our response to kind of terror, all our responses used to be very tepid responses, mostly on the diplomatic front. Okay, we will not have any trade relation. Okay, we will cut trade ties. We will sever all kind of treaties, so to say. We will not have our embassies there. We will not have their representatives there. But this is the first time, mind you, that India has taken a very, very tough stand against a nation which is essentially a nuclear nation, nuclear capability. It has nuclear capability. But India's stand can be encapsulated in three basically points, bullet points. One, India has clearly said that any attack, any terror attack, will be treated akin to an attack on the nation. Secondly, India will not see the sponsors of terrorism, the terror state and terrorists themselves as separate. They are one and the same thing, and India will retaliate if if terrorist attacks happen. India will retaliate on the terror bases based in POK and also in Pakistan, and they have also kind of made it very clear that even if India has to talk to Pakistan, it has to be only on Pak occupied Kashmir. So this is the paradigm shift in terms of treatment or in terms of dealing with terror activities. And you can compare with what happened in the past. You will not find any such example in the history. Be it in Kargil, when we kept thinking whether we should send our aircraft, the Indian Air Force, across the border. Then there was a concern that no, that will be a violation of the line of control or the international border, and we lost so many lives, so many lives of soldiers and army personnel had to be sacrificed. The response in the time of 2008 Mumbai attack. In fact, we all have seen that. In fact, at that time, I was also there in Mumbai itself. It happened in front of my eyes also. We have gone through it. 2006, there were Mumbai serial train bomb blasts. Not much was done in terms of military action, military response. But the paradigm shift that we are talking about is that India has now decided that it will respond militarily.
And it's interesting, Ashu, because at the start of it, you mentioned how it was a little somber mood at the BJP office when in our last general elections, because of the fact that this was not a resounding majority. It was a coalition government. But now that you mentioned so much of this and having this chat with you guys, throughout this process, which was it was a difficult time for the country and for the region and for the rest of the world, at no point could anyone perceive that this was a majority government or a coalition government. It seemed like the country, and it in fact was the fact that the country was united, as were all political parties. There was not much politics that people were discussing. It was all largely one united front. And I think that's a big testament to the fact that, yes, we saw in Modi's in the first two renditions, Modi 1.1, 2.0, there were many transgressions at the border, and it was perhaps a more consolidated way to react. But here, it was perhaps like you said, the most formidable response that we've seen over the past few years, the most cogent response, and it was done with a coalition government.
Exactly. Just in very short, I'd like to tell you that what used to happen. The majority, the coalition leader earlier would think as to how any step that would be taken, how it would impact the kind of political consideration of the ally.
Yeah.
And that used to be the deciding factor. Now the thought process is that everything has to be done in the interest of the nation, irrespective of obviously views will be taken, the considerations will be heard, but the prime kind of guiding factor is basically the national interest. And look at the treatment of the post-war or the post-conflict treatment. We have sent a delegation of MPs across the world, having representation from and led by people from MPs from the opposition parties, to explain the stand of India on this entire conflict to the
That's a very
global
smart
community.
move.
Those are the changes that we are talking about. Those are the changes in terms of handling, in terms of making your point clear, not only to the Indian community, to the entire world per se.
Absolutely. I think these are very pertinent points and very praiseworthy in terms of what you've been highlighting in the story as well. So everyone needs to really, this is only a sneak peek of what we have in store for you in this issue of Fortune India. Ajita, you've also worked on, I've been seeing all the emails and all the Zoom calls we've been doing on a bunch of other stories, right? There's something about just switching tracks over here. There's matters close to my heart, gaming, podcast stars. There's also so much more from the Mumbai local entertainment scene, how the Broadway formats are working. There are other cool things to look out for as well in this issue, Ajita.
Yes, yes. The whole live entertainment space is picking up in a big way, and it shows uh, the aspirational India. And when it comes to live concerts, Coldplay did the biggest, best business in a place like Ahmedabad. It was
Yeah,
not Delhi and Mumbai. The largest business came from Ahmedabad. And that shows that Indians have the power to spend and they want to spend. They want to be seen doing cool things. And this is actually kind of creating an entire economy around it. It is not just the music, but a lot of other adjoining things which are picking up in a big way, be it F&B, be it tourism, be it hospitality, everything is picking up in a big way. So that clearly is a very interesting insight that Vidhi has brought into the story as to it is not just the concert economy, but the businesses around it which have started picking up. And again, mind you, it's not Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. It is tier two, tier three India, which is picking up. Even I mean, Coldplay, of course, is a big international name. You go to Punjab, some of those local artists, they are crowd pullers. Be
yeah,
it say Arijit Singh, his concerts also run into packed houses, so it's kind of packed stadiums. Sorry, but the irony is, though the market is picking up, we really don't have quality infrastructure. So that is what needs to come up. Just as what they've done with IPL, I think probably we are hoping to see a similar kind of thing happening in the concert side of it, in the live entertainment side of it. And if you look at the most premium facility we have, it's of course NMACC, Nita
yeah.
Mukesh Ambani Cultural Center, which their model is very interesting. So they kind of they have made entertainment, art affordable to everyone.
That's true.
So they had the I don't know. I'm sure you would have seen Phantom of the Opera. The average ticket size was around probably 4,000, 5,000. But they also had tickets which started right from 2,000 bucks. And the experience was similar. It was, yeah, maybe if you sat in one of those premium rows, you would have seen the faces more clear. But in terms of sound, in terms of acoustic, in terms of views, it was very much, so they're democratizing entertainment, which is very interesting.
And just to clarify for anyone watching, when Ajita says 2000 bucks, she means 2000 Indian rupees. And that's literally a fraction of the cost you'd spend in at Broadway,
Exactly.
West End. And honestly,
Yes.
for anyone who hasn't been here, this is an objective, just a someone from the audience saying this. It is perhaps the most premium flagship experience I have ever had in terms of live entertainment, like Ajita is seeing there. It's actually quite a badge of honor for the rest of the country. But again, over there, Ajita, big disparity and gap from we had an
No, but
NCPA.
they're also kind of, I mean, of course, Phantom of the Opera or
Yeah,
Mamma Mia, they are premium properties, but they're also giving
regional
impetus. They're also
Indian stories as well.
promoting the wannabe artists.
They are,
So
but what I was pointing to, Ajita, to get your point on is the disparity in terms of infrastructure again, because you have one thing at one end, like the NMACC or
yes,
NCPA over the years, and then what about the other venues which really need to be promoted, to be developed, to be supported? I feel like that
yes,
is a space that needs to be worked on, and
yes.
not just in Mumbai, by the way. I spent some time in Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur also has a Tata performing theater, but we need a lot more across the
We
country
need a lot more. We need
uh,
a lot more.
to be
In fact,
building.
this talk about, I was talking to a gentleman who was telling me that they are negotiating with the government to kind of convert some of these stadiums into, entertainment destinations, like a Talkatora Stadium in Delhi. So, during the non-cricketing season, can we convert it into an entertainment destination? And, and that then you're getting revenue for the property itself, and you can develop that infrastructure. So there are a lot of talks happening. As I told you, they're all at a very nascent stage, but at least the ball has started moving, which is heartening. You have, of course, Geo Studios is all about scale. So they interestingly want to take Indian content to the global, um, uh, take it globally, distribute it globally. They want to build a franchise model. So just as you have the Marvel franchise or the Pixar franchise, they want to build franchises out of their titles. So be it a Bhedia, be it a Stree, be it a Munja, they want to build franchise. They want to create global franchise out of the Indian content that they create here. It is, of course, I mean, a entity like Geo can afford to do it, so they are doing it. It's not possible for many others, but at least we are going to be heard globally, which is the good news.
No, and I always thought this was the large Indian diaspora across the world that's consuming this content.
It's
But
not diaspora, Ayush. It is global audience.
exactly,
It is
exactly
taking India.
exactly what I'm coming to. That I was
Yeah.
corrected a few days ago when I met a bunch of content creators from the US and the UK, and they watch more seasons of Indian matchmaking and of the fabulous lives of Bollywood wives. They know more about these shows than I do. So it is being consumed. The algorithm is really making sure that a lot more people watch it. And I think it's really interesting, Ashu, because this is globalization at its finest. You can have tariffs and disruptors coming in around the world, but at the end of the day, when someone goes on a Netflix or an Amazon and they want to watch a Korean show or an Indian show over perhaps something that's coming from California, you can do that, and I think that's the beauty of it. And it's not just, by the way, we had the YouTube CEO here in India just a few weeks ago, right? And YouTube's been doing this as well, Ashu, with creators. This video is automatically using AI translated to 7 or 8 languages with my voice. So it's dubbed by itself. It's not just captions anymore. So I feel like technology is really bridging the gap over here.
And India is at the forefront of it.
Absolutely.
So be it VFX, be it AI, India is at the forefront of it. So India has this opportunity, huge opportunity, to be the back office, the media back office.
Yeah.
So, and that's already started happening. In fact, if you look at the numbers, this time the growth has come down of the Indian entertainment industry. The growth has come down. We grew by 8.8% in 2003. In 2004, we only grew by 3.3%. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the Hollywood writers' strike. And because of that, content was not being outsourced from India. VFX suffered in a big way. So the post-production, which a lot of it happens in India, that suffered. So that actually led to a revenue dip. I mean, the growth dip.
No, I was just making a small point. In fact, that is the reason why we have seen that energy at the waves, and India is essentially thinking and talking in terms of promoting the orange economy. So the government is also kind of giving its the relevant policy push that is required to tap into these new growth segments.
Yeah, and especially you see the kind of the sort of top names in the world in attendance at a summit here in Mumbai. Not the best weather, and honestly, Mumbai breathing. We're having so many infrastructural changes happening, but everyone was here from across the world, and I think that's another statement that I'm guessing also
the entire fraternity was here.
It's in line with your story, Ashu, of 1 year of the Modi government and 11 years of all of these policy reforms in a nutshell. But what a pleasure chatting with you guys. I can go on and on. These are two very fascinating topics, and I'm sure a lot of people can continue the conversation in the comment section. You can write to us on all our emails, on our social media handles. We're quite active in our spaces, and we'd love to continue this conversation. Ajita, Ashutosh, what a pleasure as always. I can't wait to get my hands on this issue, read it even more, and then we'll do maybe a follow-up chat once it's all done. And there's so much more coming from the Fortune India stables. There's stuff happening on social media, our videos, new IPs we're launching, and some really cool events that we're working on. So stay tuned to this page, and I'll see you in the next one.